Time Walk with me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Time Walk with me. Today we're taking a look at my Codie Vociferous Codex deck. I got the idea from this deck from Commander's Quarters. Of course, that's where I get all my deck ideas, or at least some of them, or most of them. I don't know. I have so many decks. I guess I can't get them all from Commander's Quarters, but some of my favorites are from there. They do a really good job, I think. I may have improved on this idea, maybe not. Anyway, so this deck is all about getting a bunch of creatures into my graveyard and then casting Living End with the help of Codie to put them all out at once, and of course to kill my opponent's creatures in the process. I suppose I would also be bringing back my opponent's creatures, but I guess that's a chance that I will have to take, because I will probably be more prepared to do that than my opponent will be. So the commander is Codie, Vociferous Codex. This unique artifact creature gives me 1 mana of every color for any 4 mana, which means that this deck won't need as much mana fixing as a normal 5-color deck would. Then its ability lets me cast spells for free, which is very nice, and it combos with the next card on my list, which I already told you about, but it's in the script as if I hadn't told you about it, so yeah. The first core card on this list is Living End. When I use Codie's ability to cast a 1-mana spell, as long as this card is in my library, I'm guaranteed to get it, because it's the only card with no mana cost in the deck. This empties the battlefield and then fills my battlefield with creatures from my graveyard, which is very cool, and you like it. Living Death. Living End is the time spiral version of this card. It means I don't always have to rely on Codie to get my dead creatures out. But it's a lot easier to get Living End because I can just cast a 1-mana spell and dig for it rather than hope that I draw Living Death. But hey, I could draw Living Death, and in that case it's a good thing. If I draw Living End, it's a bad thing because I want that in my deck in the library. Peer into the Abyss. This rather brutal-looking card helps me to get a lot of creatures into my graveyard at the low cost of half my life, but I think it's worth it. You may notice that the vast majority of creatures in this deck have cycling. That is because I want as many of them in my graveyard as possible when Living End or Living Death goes off. I won't bother explaining every single one of these, but some of them are cool other than just being creatures, so I'll explain those ones. Angel of the God Pharaoh. Archfiend of Ifnir. This might be a good one to actually cast since it helps to protect me from my opponent's creatures. It's very handy because until I do bust out my massive army of cycled corpses, I'm quite vulnerable. Bark-eyed Mauler. Curator of Mysteries. This is another one I might cast since it helps me to peer into the abyss sooner. Desert Ceradon, Granitic Titan, Greater Sandworm, Hollow One. I might end up being able to cast this for free since cycling other cards makes it cheaper. Hundrug, Jungle Weaver, Lava Serpent, Macetail Histrodon, Nimble Obstructionist. This is a cool sneaky stifle card. Primarch Escapee. This is such a bad card outside of this deck. It's ridiculous. It's terrible. Quakefoot Cyclops. This one confused me because in the script I accidentally wrote Quakefood Cyclops. This is a good one to cycle and helps you out when it enters the battlefield, though when it does, it's along with the rest of my army and they don't have haste. But still, it's a 4/4 dude, so it's useful. Rampaging Hippo, Ridge Rannet, River Serpent, Scion of Darkness, Sheffet Monitor. This guy is handy because he gives me a land and it enters the battlefield untapped. Street Wraith. I like how the cycle card of this guy is basically free. I mean cycle cost, not cycle card. Titanoth Rex. Undead Gladiator. I can keep cycling this guy over and over as long as I have enough black mana. Windcaller Aven, Winged Shepherd, and Yoked Plowbeast. There are also some interaction cards in the 1-drop section, but these are the more expensive and therefore more versatile spells in the deck. They're pretty self-explanatory, so I won't spend too long on them. We got Assassin's Trophy, Beast Within, Bedevil, Generous Gift, Putrefy, and Utter End. I think most of these cards interact with my opponents in some way. I also put in some cards that shuffle back into my library in case Living End ends up in my graveyard before I have a chance to cast it. Or my hand. If it ends up in my hand, I have to get it into my graveyard so I can get it back into my library. So we've got Annul, Blood Chief's Thirst, Bone Shards, Demystify, Dwell on the Past, Erase, Lightning Bolt, Light of Hope, Mystic Repeal, Raise the Effigy, Serene Remembrance, Stream of Thought, and Vendetta. There's nothing too special here, just some ramp. Arcane Signet, Commander Sphere, Felwar Stone, Hedron Crawler, Letter of Acceptance, Liquimetal Torque, and, of course, Sol Ring. Like I already explained, I don't want to actually draw Living End. I want it to stay in my library until I'm ready to dig for it with Codie. So when it does end up in my hand, I have to discard it somehow and shuffle it back into my library with these cards: Gaia's Blessing and Quandrix's Command. These basically amount to additional copies of Peer into the Abyss. We've got Demonic Tutor and Grim Tutor. Gavi Nest Warden. This lady is awesome. She helps me to cycle my creatures, and she gives me 2/2 chump blockers. Glacial Chasm. This protects me from damage while I wait for my graveyard to fill up. It costs life, but I would rather pay life than have my opponents take it from me. Heartstone. This makes it cheaper to use Codie's mana ability. Herald of the Forgotten. This is a bit of a late-game redundancy. It does what Living End and Living Death do, except it doesn't kill my opponent's creatures, but it's still pretty cool. Training Grounds. Like Heartstone, this is here to support Codie. Now this deck makes use of a lot of gates, because I didn't have to work too hard on the mana base thanks to Codie's mana filtering ability. I'm considering putting in Maze's End as an alternate win condition, but it's not in there right now. We've got Azorius Guildgate, Boros Guildgate, Cliff Gate, Command Tower, which is not a gate, Dimir Guildgate, Golgari Guildgate, Gruul Guildgate, Heapgate, Izzet Guildgate, Simic Guildgate, Thran Portal, and Basic Lands. So that's it. That is my Codie Vociferous Codex Living End deck. What do you think? Catch you next time.